The story of Black Adam begins not in the modern world but in the ancient realm of Kondak, a nation that would become the cornerstone of one of the most complex and morally ambiguous characters in the DC extended universe. Set in ancient times, specifically around 2,600 years before the birth of Christ, the kingdom of Kondak finds itself under the oppressive rule of a tyrannical monarch known as King Akhton. This despotic ruler has enslaved his people, forcing them into the dangerous and backbreaking work of mining a mystical metal called Eternium, a substance of incredible power that exists at the very foundation of magical forces in this universe. The enslaved people of Kondak toil endlessly in the harsh conditions of the mines, their lives worth nothing to their cruel king, who seeks only to accumulate more power for himself. Akhton's ultimate goal is to forge the crown of Sabbac using the Eternium they extract from the earth with their blood and sweat. This crown represents more than mere royal regalia. It is an artifact of immense dark power, connected to demonic forces that could grant its wearer dominion over life and death itself. The people suffer under this burden, their hope dwindling with each passing day as they watch their friends and family members die in the mines or under the whips of their overseers. In this darkest hour, when all seems lost and the people of Kondak face nothing but endless servitude and death, a young boy emerges as an unlikely beacon of hope. This child, whose courage far exceeds his years, stands up against the impossible odds and leads a desperate rebellion against King Akhton's forces. The boy's bravery inspires others, and what begins as a small act of defiance grows into a movement that threatens the very foundation of Akhton's rule. However, the king's power is too great, his army too vast, and the rebellion seems doomed to fail. As the young rebel leader faces certain death at the hands of Akhton's executioners, something miraculous occurs. The ancient wizard Shazam, keeper of magical powers beyond mortal comprehension, witnesses the boy's sacrifice and is moved by his pure heart and selfless courage. In the final moments before the child's death, Shazam bestows upon him the powers of 6 Egyptian gods, transforming him into a champion unlike any the world has ever seen. The boy becomes Teth Adam, wielding the stamina of Shu, the swiftness of Heru, the strength of Amon, the wisdom of Zehuti, the power of Aten, and the courage of Mehen. With these godlike abilities coursing through his being, Teth Adam becomes an unstoppable force of vengeance and justice. He turns against King Akhton with a fury that shakes the very foundations of the earth, but in his rage and desire for justice, something darker takes hold. The power corrupts him, and what was meant to be liberation becomes something far more violent and destructive. Teth Adam's methods become increasingly brutal, his sense of justice twisted into something that frightens even those he sought to save. Recognizing that his champion has been corrupted by the very power meant to save his people, Shazam makes the difficult decision to imprison Teth Adam, sealing him away where he can do no more harm. Thousands of years pass, and the world changes beyond recognition. The ancient kingdom of Kondak becomes the modern nation of the same name. But oppression has once again taken hold. This time, the oppressors are not ancient kings, but a criminal organization known as Intergang, a sophisticated syndicate that has infiltrated governments and corporations worldwide. In Kondak, Intergang operates through local collaborators and mercenaries, strip mining the country's resources while keeping its people in poverty and fear. The situation bears an eerie resemblance to the ancient days of King Akhton, with the people of Kondak once again enslaved, this time by corporate greed and criminal enterprise rather than royal decree. Adriana Tomaz, an archaeologist and freedom fighter who represents the best hopes of her people. Adriana is not merely an academic. She is deeply committed to the liberation of Kondak from Intergang's grip. Her research into her country's ancient history is driven not just by scholarly curiosity, but by a desperate hope that the past might hold the key to their salvation. She spent years studying the legends of the ancient champion, following clues and deciphering texts that speak of a protector who once defended Kondak against tyranny. Adriana's personal stakes in this fight are made clear through her family. She has a son named Amon, a bright and enthusiastic boy who dreams of superheroes and believes in the possibility of justice triumphing over evil. Amon represents the next generation of Kondak, the future that Adriana fights to protect. Her brother Karim also joins her cause, understanding that their family's survival depends on the liberation of their homeland. Together they form part of a resistance movement that operates in the shadows, always under threat from Intergang's ruthless enforcement. The film establishes Intergang not as mere criminals, but as a well-organized, technologically advanced force with connections reaching into the highest levels of international power. Their operation in Kondak is overseen by local commander Ishmael Gregor, a man who has sold out his own people for personal gain and power. Gregor represents the worst kind of collaborator, someone who profits from his people's suffering while maintaining a facade of legitimacy. Under his leadership, Intergang has turned Kondak into a virtual police state where dissent is crushed and the country's natural resources are stripped away to enrich foreign interests. The tension builds as Adriana's research leads her closer to the ancient tomb where Teth Adam has been imprisoned for millennia. Her team of fellow researchers and freedom fighters includes individuals who share her commitment to their country's liberation, though they may not fully understand the magnitude of what they are about to unleash. The archaeological expedition that will change everything is presented not as a casual academic exercise, but as a desperate last resort, a final attempt to find something, anything, that might help their people break free from oppression. When Adriana and her team finally locate the ancient tomb, the moment is charged with both hope and trepidation. The tomb itself is a marvel of ancient engineering, protected by centuries of accumulated earth and stone, hidden away where Shazam intended it to remain for all eternity. The inscriptions on the walls tell the story of the ancient champion, though their true meaning is not immediately clear to the modern researchers. Adriana reads the ancient incantations aloud, not fully understanding their power, driven by a combination of scholarly curiosity and desperate hope. The awakening of Black Adam is one of the most visually spectacular moments in superhero cinema, a sequence that establishes the immense power and otherworldly nature of the character. Lightning splits the sky, not the clean, bright lightning of a natural storm, but something far more primal and magical. The earth shakes as forces that have been dormant for thousands of years suddenly surge back to life. When Teth Adam emerges from his imprisonment, he is not the same person who was sealed away by Shazam. The millennia of imprisonment have changed him, leaving him disconnected from the world and its people, operating according to an ancient code of justice that may not align with modern sensibilities. The first encounters between Black Adam and the modern world serve to establish his character as something genuinely alien and potentially dangerous. He does not immediately distinguish between friend and foe, between the innocent and the guilty. His method of dealing with threats is direct and lethal, an approach that reflects both his ancient origins and the corruption that led to his imprisonment. When Intergang forces arrive to capture or kill both him and Adriana's team, Black Adam responds with devastating efficiency. But his actions raise immediate questions about whether he is truly a savior or simply a different kind of threat. Dwayne Johnson's portrayal of Black Adam is deliberately restrained, avoiding the charismatic warmth that characterizes many of his other roles. This Black Adam is stoic, ancient, and fundamentally disconnected from human emotion as most people understand it. He speaks in clipped formal phrases that reflect his ancient origins, and his body language suggests someone who has spent thousands of... The performance emphasizes the character's otherness, his status as someone who exists outside normal human society and moral frameworks. The relationship between Black Adam and Amon, Adriana's son, provides one of the film's most important character development arcs. Amon is fascinated by superheroes and immediately recognizes Black Adam as something extraordinary, though he does not initially understand the darker aspects of his nature. The boy's enthusiasm and innocence begin to crack through Black Adam's emotional armor, reminding him of his own origins as someone who fought to protect the innocent. Through Amon's eyes, the audience sees the possibility that Black Adam might indeed be capable of heroism, though the path to that heroism may be complicated and morally ambiguous. As word of Black Adam's return spreads beyond Kondak, it attracts the attention of Amanda Waller, the ruthless government operative who oversees Task Force X and other metahuman affairs. Waller represents the establishment's response to extraordinary threats, operating according to a cold calculus that prioritizes control and containment over justice or freedom. Her interest in Black Adam is purely pragmatic. She sees him as either a potential asset to be controlled or a threat to be eliminated. The involvement of Waller and her organization adds another layer of complexity to the story, introducing the question of whether Black Adam's greatest enemies might ultimately be those who claim to represent justice and order. Waller's response to the Black Adam situation is to deploy the Justice Society of America, a team of metahuman heroes who represent a more traditional approach to superheroism than Black Adam's ancient and lethal methods. The Justice Society serves as both an opposing force to Black Adam and a reflection of different philosophical approaches to heroism and justice. Each member of the team brings their own perspective and abilities to the conflict, creating a complex dynamic that goes beyond simple good versus evil. Hawkman, portrayed by Aldis Hodge, serves as the field leader of the Justice Society team sent to deal with Black Adam. Carter Hall has lived multiple lifetimes, reincarnated across centuries, which gives him a unique perspective on both modern heroism and ancient history. His connection to ancient Egypt means he has some understanding of the forces that created Black Adam, though his approach to justice has evolved to embrace more modern concepts of restraint and proportionality. Hawkman's ability to fly, combined with his enhanced strength and combat skills, makes him one of the few heroes capable of engaging Black Adam in direct physical confrontation. The relationship between Hawkman and Black Adam becomes central to the film's exploration of different approaches to heroism. Both characters have ancient origins and enormous power, but they have developed very different philosophies about how that power should be used. Hawkman represents heroism tempered by wisdom and restraint, while Black Adam embodies the concept of justice without mercy. Their conflicts are not merely physical but philosophical, representing different answers to the fundamental questions about power and responsibility that define the superhero genre. Dr. Fate, brought to life by Pierce Brosnan in one of the film's most acclaimed performances, represents the mystical side of the Justice Society. Kent Nelson serves as the host for Nabu, an ancient entity of order and wisdom, giving Dr. Fate access to magical powers that rival those of Black Adam himself. Fate's abilities include precognition, allowing him to see potential futures and understand the consequences of various actions. This gift becomes both an asset and a burden, as Fate can see the darkness that lies ahead, but may be limited in his ability to prevent it. Pierce Brosnan's portrayal of Dr. Fate brings gravitas and mysticism to the character, emphasizing his role as someone who operates according to cosmic principles rather than human emotions. Fate's dialogue often carries the weight of ancient wisdom and inevitable destiny, and his interactions with Black Adam reveal deep knowledge of the forces that created and imprisoned the ancient champion. The character serves as a bridge between the magical elements of the DC universe and the more grounded superhero narratives, helping to establish the cosmic stakes involved in Black Adam's return. Atom Smasher, portrayed by Noah Centineo, represents the younger generation of heroes within the Justice Society. Albert Rothstein has the ability to grow to enormous size while maintaining his strength and durability, making him a formidable physical presence despite his relative inexperience. His character serves multiple functions within the narrative, providing both comic relief and a perspective on heroism that is more idealistic and less burdened by the complexities that weigh on the older members of the team. Atom Smasher's youth and enthusiasm create interesting dynamics with both the veteran heroes and Black Adam himself. The inclusion of Atom Smasher also allows the film to explore themes about mentorship and the passing of heroic traditions from one generation to the next. His relationship with the other Justice Society members, particularly Hawkman, reflects the ongoing process by which heroic values and techniques are transmitted through time. When confronted with Black Adam's more lethal approach to justice, Atom Smasher must grapple with questions about the limits of heroism and the circumstances under which violence might be justified. Cyclone, portrayed by Quintessa Swindell, brings both wind-based powers and a fresh perspective to the Justice Society team. Maxine Hunkel's abilities allow her to control air currents and create powerful windstorms, but her real contribution to the team lies in her compassion and her commitment to protecting innocent life. Like Atom Smasher, she represents a newer generation of heroes, one that has grown up in a world where superheroism is more established and codified than it was for the original generation of heroes. The character of Cyclone also serves to highlight the gender dynamics within both the superhero genre and the Justice Society specifically. Her presence ensures that the team represents diverse perspectives and approaches to problem-solving, and her interactions with Black Adam help to illuminate different aspects of his character. The wind-based powers create visually spectacular action sequences, while also providing tactical advantages. As the Justice Society arrives in Kahndaq to investigate and potentially contain Black Adam, the film begins to explore the complex political and moral questions that arise when powerful individuals intervene in the affairs of sovereign nations. The presence of American superheroes in a Middle Eastern country carries obvious real-world parallels, and the film does not shy away from addressing the colonial implications of such interventions. The local population's response to the Justice Society is mixed, with some seeing them as potential saviors, while others view them as yet another form of foreign interference. The moral complexity deepens when it becomes clear that the Justice Society's mission puts them in opposition not only to Black Adam, but potentially to the legitimate aspirations of the Kahndaqi people for freedom and self-determination. While Intergang's oppression of Kahndaq is clearly wrong, the question of whether foreign superheroes have the right to impose their vision of justice on another nation is left deliberately ambiguous. This tension reflects broader questions about interventionism and the relationship between power and justice that resonate throughout the film. The initial confrontations between Black Adam and the Justice Society serve to establish the enormous power differential between the ancient champion and even experienced modern heroes. Black Adam's abilities, granted by the Egyptian gods themselves, operate on a scale that exceeds what most heroes can match. His speed approaches that of the Flash, his strength rivals that of Superman, and his mystical powers put him in the same league as the most powerful magical beings in the DC universe. These early battles demonstrate that defeating Black Adam through conventional superhero tactics may be impossible. The action sequences are designed to emphasize both the spectacular nature of the powers involved and the genuine danger that Black Adam represents. Unlike many superhero films where the heroes seem invulnerable, Black Adam poses a real threat to the Justice Society members, forcing them to operate with caution and tactical awareness. The choreography of these battles reflects the different fighting styles and philosophies of the various characters, with Hawkman's direct approach contrasting with Dr. Fate's mystical strategies and the younger heroes' more improvisational methods. Throughout these conflicts, the film maintains focus on the impact of superhuman battles on ordinary people. The citizens of Kahndaq find themselves caught between multiple powerful forces, with their homes and livelihoods threatened by the collateral damage of superhuman conflict. This focus on civilian casualties and destruction serves to ground the spectacular action sequences in human consequences, reminding the audience that the stakes of these battles extend far beyond the immediate combatants. The character development of Black Adam throughout these sequences reveals the complexity of his moral position. While his methods are undeniably brutal and his disregard for collateral damage deeply troubling, his fundamental motivation remains the protection of his people from oppression. This creates a moral ambiguity that distinguishes Black Adam from traditional villains, as his goals are arguably noble, even if his methods are questionable. The film explores the question of whether someone can be both a hero and a monster, and whether the ends can ever truly justify the means. As the conflict escalates, the true scope of the threat facing Kahndaq begins to emerge. Intergang's presence in the country is revealed to be part of a larger plan involving the Crown of Sabak, the same artifact that King Akhenaten sought to create thousands of years earlier. The crown has survived through the millennia, and its power remains undiminished, representing a threat that goes far beyond simple criminal enterprise. The revelation that Intergang seeks to use this ancient artifact adds a mystical dimension to what initially appeared to be a purely political and economic conflict. Ishmael Gregor's role in this larger conspiracy becomes increasingly clear as the story unfolds. Far from being simply a local criminal leader, Gregor has been working toward the acquisition of the Crown of Sabak for years, using his position within Intergang to further his own agenda. His knowledge of the Crown's power and his willingness to sacrifice his own people to obtain it mark him as a threat that transcends normal criminal activity. The revelation of Gregor's true motivations adds personal stakes to Black Adam's conflict with Intergang, as the ancient champion recognizes echoes of the tyranny he fought against millennia ago. The Crown of Sabak itself is established as an artifact of immense dark power, connected to demonic forces that exist in opposition to the divine powers that created Black Adam. Where Black Adam's abilities come from the gods of ancient Egypt, the crown draws its power from 6 demons, creating a direct theological and mystical opposition between the two forces. This supernatural element elevates the conflict beyond a simple superhero adventure into something approaching cosmic significance. The film's exploration of these mystical elements draws heavily from DC Comics' rich tradition of mixing superheroes with supernatural. The Crown's connection to demonic powers introduces themes of temptation, corruption, and the price of power that resonate with classical literature and religious tradition. As the Justice Society continues their investigation into Black Adam and the situation in Kahndaq, they begin to uncover the deeper connections between the current crisis and ancient history. Dr. Fate's mystical abilities allow him to perceive the supernatural forces at work, while Hawkman's own connection to ancient Egypt provides historical context for the current conflict. This investigation reveals that the battle for Kahndaq is not merely a modern political struggle, but the continuation of a conflict that has raged for thousands of years. The character of Dr. Fate becomes particularly crucial during this phase of the story, as his ability to see potential futures reveals the catastrophic consequences that could result from the Crown falling into the wrong hands. His visions show not only immediate threats to Kahndaq but potential worldwide catastrophe if the demonic forces associated with the Crown are unleashed. These revelations add urgency to the Justice Society's mission, while also highlighting the cosmic stakes involved in what might otherwise seem like a localized conflict. The relationship between Black Adam and the Justice Society begins to evolve as they come to understand the true nature of the threat. While their methods and philosophies remain fundamentally different, both Black Adam and the Justice Society share a commitment to preventing the Crown from being used to unleash demonic forces upon the world. This common enemy creates the possibility of cooperation, though the mistrust and philosophical differences between the parties make such cooperation fragile and temporary. The film's treatment of these evolving relationships reflects its broader exploration of moral complexity and the difficulty of achieving justice in an imperfect world. Neither Black Adam nor the Justice Society is presented as entirely right or wrong in their approach to heroism. Instead, the narrative suggests that effective action against truly dangerous threats may require the combination of different perspectives and methods, even when those approaches seem. As Ishmael Gregor moves closer to obtaining the crown of Sabbac, the urgency of the situation forces all parties to make difficult choices about priorities and methods. Black Adam's willingness to kill in order to prevent greater catastrophe puts him at odds with the Justice Society's more restrained approach. But the magnitude of the potential threat makes their philosophical differences seem increasingly academic. The film uses this escalating tension to explore questions about the nature of heroism and the compromises that may be necessary when facing existential threats. The acquisition of the Crown of Sabbac by Ishmael Gregor represents a turning point in the narrative, transforming him from a local criminal leader into something far more dangerous and supernatural. The Crown's power corrupts and transforms its wearer, granting immense abilities, while also stripping away humanity and moral restraint. Gregor's transformation into Sabbac creates a threat that neither Black Adam nor the Justice Society can handle alone, forcing them into an uneasy alliance despite their fundamental disagreements. Sabbac as a character represents the dark mirror of Black Adam's own powers, an origin story where Black Adam received his abilities from benevolent Egyptian gods in recognition of his heroic sacrifice. Sabbac's power comes from malevolent demons in exchange for his willingness to embrace evil and destruction. This parallel emphasizes the film's exploration of how similar powers can be used for radically different purposes, depending on the character and motivation of the person who wields them. The visual design and special effects used to realize Sabbac create a genuinely threatening and otherworldly antagonist. Unlike Black Adam, whose appearance retains recognizably human characteristics despite his godlike powers, Sabbac is transformed into something monstrous and demonic. The character design emphasizes his connection to supernatural evil, while also making him a physical match for Black Adam's incredible ability. The transformation sequences and battle scenes involving Sabbac utilize practical effects and CGI to create some of the film's most visually spectacular moments. The emergence of Sabbac forces the Justice Society to confront the limitations of their traditional approach to heroism. Their usual methods of containment and rehabilitation are inadequate when facing a being whose very existence threatens reality itself. This crisis forces characters like Hawkman and Dr. Fate to reconsider their opposition to Black Adam's more lethal methods as the stakes of the conflict become truly existential. The film uses this moral crisis to explore questions about when violence becomes necessary and whether traditional heroic restraint is always appropriate. Dr. Fate's role becomes particularly crucial during the Sabbac crisis, as his mystical abilities make him one of the few characters capable of directly confronting the demonic forces that Sabbac represents. However, Fate's precognitive abilities also reveal that defeating Sabbac will require enormous sacrifice, potentially including his own life. This knowledge creates dramatic tension, as Fate must choose between preserving his own existence and fulfilling his cosmic responsibilities as a force of order and protection. The relationship between Black Adam and the people of Kahndaq evolves throughout the Sabbac crisis, as the ancient champion's true nature becomes clearer to both his allies and his people. While his methods remain harsh and his moral code ancient and inflexible, his commitment to protecting Kahndaq from supernatural threat demonstrates that he is indeed the champion his people need, even if he is not the hero they might have wanted. This evolution reflects the film's exploration of the difference between heroism and heroic idealism. Amon's role in the story becomes increasingly important as the supernatural crisis unfolds, as his faith in Black Adam and his understanding of heroism help to bridge the gap between the ancient champion and the modern world. The boy's courage in the face of supernatural terror echoes the bravery of the ancient child, whose sacrifice originally created Black Adam, creating a thematic connection across millennia that emphasizes the continuity of human courage and hope in the face of overwhelming darkness. The final confrontation between the combined forces of Black Adam and the Justice Society against Sabbac represents the climax of the film's exploration of different approaches. Each character must contribute their unique abilities and perspective to the battle, demonstrating that victory against truly cosmic threats requires cooperation between different kinds of heroes. The battle sequences combine spectacular action with character development, as each participant must overcome their personal limitations and prejudices to work effectively with their temporary ally. Dr. Fate's sacrifice during the final battle serves as the emotional and thematic climax of the film, as his willingness to give his life to defeat Sabbac demonstrates the highest ideals of heroism. His death is not merely a plot device, but a profound statement about the nature of heroic sacrifice and the responsibility that comes with great power. The loss of Dr. Fate affects all the surviving characters, forcing them to confront the true cost of their mission and the weight of the responsibilities they carry. The aftermath of Sabbac's defeat allows the film to explore the consequences of the supernatural crisis and the ways in which the various characters have been changed by their experiences. Black Adam's relationship with the Justice Society remains complicated, as their fundamental philosophical differences have not been resolved, but their shared experience of loss and victory has created a foundation for mutual respect. The film suggests that heroism can take many forms, and that cooperation between different kinds of heroes may be necessary to face the challenges of an increasingly complex world. The resolution of Black Adam's relationship with Amanda Waller and the broader government establishment reflects the film's treatment of authority and institutional power. Waller's attempts to control or contain Black Adam are shown to be both futile and counterproductive, as his power and moral independence make him impossible to subordinate to governmental authority. However, Black Adam's commitment to protecting Kahndaq provides a natural limitation on his actions that serves the same function as formal oversight, suggesting that true heroism must be self-regulating rather than externally controlled. The film's exploration of Black Adam's role as protector rather than ruler of Kahndaq reflects broader themes about leadership and power. His destruction of the ancient throne that once symbolized royal authority demonstrates his rejection of traditional forms of political power in favor of a more direct and personal responsibility to his people. This choice reflects the character's evolution from the vengeful being who was imprisoned millennia ago to someone capable of genuine heroism, albeit heroism that operates according to his own ancient moral code. The introduction of Superman in the film's final moments serves multiple narrative functions, establishing Black Adam's place within the broader DC extended universe, while also setting up future conflicts and alliances. The meeting between these two godlike beings represents the collision between different heroic traditions and moral frameworks, with Superman's more conventional heroism contrasting with Black Adam's more ancient and inflexible approach to justice. This encounter promises future stories that will continue to explore the tensions and possibilities inherent in the coexistence of different kinds of heroes. The technical aspects of Black Adam's production contribute significantly to its effectiveness as both spectacle and character study. The cinematography emphasizes the otherworldly nature of the characters and their abilities while also grounding the action in recognizable human environments. The color palette and lighting design create distinct visual signatures for different characters and locations, helping to establish the film's unique aesthetic identity within the broader superhero genre. The special effects work in Black Adam represents some of the most advanced digital artistry in recent superhero cinema, particularly in the realization of the characters' various powers and abilities. Black Adam's lightning-based abilities are rendered with particular attention to their mystical rather than purely electrical nature, emphasizing their divine origins through color, movement, and sound design. The effects work for characters like Dr. Fate and Sabbac creates distinct visual languages that reflect their different relationships to supernatural forces. The film's score and sound design contribute to its epic scope and emotional impact, using both orchestral and electronic elements to create a sonic landscape that reflects the collision between ancient and modern forces. The music associated with Black Adam draws from Middle Eastern and ancient Egyptian musical traditions while incorporating contemporary orchestral and electronic elements, creating a unique auditory signature for the character. The production design of Black Adam creates a visual world that seamlessly blends ancient and modern elements, reflecting the film's thematic concerns with the persistence of historical conflicts and the relevance of ancient wisdom to contemporary problems. The design of Kahndaq itself reflects real-world Middle Eastern architecture and culture. The attention to cultural authenticity in the production design helps to ground the fantastic elements of the story in recognizable human contexts. The costume design for the various characters reflects their different origins, powers, and moral philosophies, while also serving practical functions in the film's extensive action sequences. Black Adam's costume draws from ancient Egyptian royal and religious traditions while incorporating modern materials and construction techniques that allow for the spectacular action sequences. The Justice Society costumes reflect each character's individual identity, while also establishing them as a cohesive team with shared values and purposes. The casting of Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam represents both an inspired choice and a significant departure from his usual. Johnson's physical presence and natural charisma serve the character well, but his performance emphasizes restraint and inscrutability rather than the warmth and humor that characterize many of his other roles. This casting decision helps to establish Black Adam as a genuinely different kind of character within both Johnson's filmography and the superhero genre more broadly. The supporting cast performances contribute significantly to the film's success in balancing spectacular action with genuine character development. Sarah Shahi's portrayal of Adriana Tomaz provides both romantic interest for Black Adam and a grounding force that connects his ancient perspective with modern human concern. Her character serves as a bridge between Black Adam and the contemporary world, helping to humanize the ancient champion while also representing the strength and dignity of the Kandaki people. Bodhi Sabongwi's performance as Amon brings genuine childlike wonder and courage to the story, serving as both comic relief and moral compass for the more powerful adult characters. His relationship with Black Adam provides some of the film's most touching moments while also serving important plot functions, as his faith in heroism helps to guide Black Adam toward a more heroic interpretation of his role and responsibilities. The film's director, Jaume Collet-Serra, brings his experience with action and thriller filmmaking to bear on the superhero genre, creating a visual style that emphasizes both the spectacular nature of the characters' abilities and the human cost of their conflicts. His direction balances the mythic scope of the story with intimate character moments, ensuring that the spectacular action sequences serve the broader narrative and thematic purposes rather than existing purely for their own sake. The screenplay by Sztykiel, Rory Haines, and Sohrab Noshirvani manages the complex task of introducing multiple new characters, while also exploring the rich mythological background of the Black Adam character. The script balances exposition with action, ensuring that audiences understand the historical and supernatural forces at work without sacrificing narrative momentum. The dialogue reflects each character's unique background and perspective, while also serving the practical needs of the action sequences and plot advancement. The film's exploration of themes related to colonialism, interventionism, and cultural identity adds depth and contemporary relevance to what might otherwise be a purely fantastical story. The portrayal of Kondak as a nation struggling against foreign exploitation reflects real-world concerns about resource extraction and political interference, while the debate over whether foreign superheroes have the right to intervene in the affairs of sovereign nations mirrors contemporary debates about humanitarian intervention and cultural sovereignty. The moral complexity of Black Adam as a character reflects broader questions about justice, revenge, and the appropriate use of power that resonate throughout human history and literature. His willingness to kill in pursuit of what he sees as justice creates genuine moral ambiguity that distinguishes him from more conventional superheroes, while his ancient origins and magical powers place him in a mythological tradition that extends back to the earliest human stories about gods and heroes. The film's treatment of violence and its consequences represents a significant departure from many superhero films, as Black Adam's lethal methods are neither glorified nor entirely condemned. Instead, the narrative explores the practical and moral implications of different approaches to conflict resolution, suggesting that while violence may sometimes be necessary, it always comes with costs that must be carefully weighed against potential. The Justice Society's role in the story serves to represent more traditional superheroic values and methods, creating a natural contrast with Black Adam's more ancient and uncompromising approach. Each member of the team represents different aspects of conventional heroism, from Hawkman's warrior nobility to Dr. Fate's mystical wisdom to the younger hero's idealistic enthusiasm. Their interactions with Black Adam force all parties to examine and sometimes modify their assumptions about justice and heroism. The supernatural and mythological elements of the story connect Black Adam to the broader tradition of fantasy and horror literature, as the conflict between divine and demonic forces operates according to cause-and normal human politics and morality. The crown of Sabbac and its associated demonic powers represent genuine cosmic evil, creating stakes that justify the extreme measures taken by both Black Adam and the Justice Society in their efforts to prevent its misuse. The film's visual effects and action choreography create some of the most spectacular superhero action sequences in recent cinema, with particular attention paid to the unique properties and visual signatures of Ia. The lightning-based powers of Black Adam are rendered with particular care, emphasizing their divine rather than merely electrical nature through color, movement, and interaction with the environment. The flight sequences and aerial battles take full advantage of modern digital effects technology to create genuinely awe-inspiring moments of superhuman action. The cultural and historical research evident in the film's production design and storytelling reflects serious attention to the sources and inspirations for the Black Adam character, drawing from ancient Egyptian mythology, Middle Eastern history, and contemporary political realities to create a rich and authentic background for the fantastic elements of the story. The film's exploration of redemption and moral growth through the character of Black Adam suggests that even those who have committed terrible acts in the past may be capable of heroism if they can learn to channel their power and anger toward genuinely protective, rather than merely vengeful purposes. This theme of redemption operates throughout the story, as Black Adam gradually learns to distinguish between justice and between protection. The legacy aspects of the story, particularly the connections between ancient Kondak and its modern incarnation, reflect broader themes about the persistence of historical trauma and the ways in which past conflicts continue to shape present realities. The parallels between King Akhenaten's tyranny and Intergang's exploitation of Kondak suggest that while the forms of oppression may change, the fundamental struggle between those who seek to exploit power and those who seek to protect the innocent remains constant throughout history. The film's treatment of family relationships, particularly between Adriana and Amon, provides emotional grounding for the spectacular supernatural conflicts, while also establishing the human stakes involved in the cosmic battle between good and evil. The strength of these family bonds helps to humanize the larger conflicts while also demonstrating the personal costs of political and supernatural warfare. The technical craftsmanship evident in every aspect of the film's production, from the intricate costume design to the sophisticated special effects to the carefully orchestrated action sequences, reflects the collaborative effort of hundreds of skilled professionals working to bring this complex story to life. The attention to detail in every aspect of the production helps to create a fully realized world that supports the story's bend of ancient. The film's box office performance and critical reception reflect the ongoing evolution of audience expectations for superhero cinema, as viewers increasingly demand more complex and morally ambiguous characters rather than simple heroes and villains. Black Adam's commercial success demonstrates that audiences are ready for superhero stories that grapple with difficult questions about power, justice, and moral responsibility rather than the cultural impact of Black Adam extends beyond its immediate entertainment value, as the film's exploration of Middle Eastern culture and history provides representation and visibility for communities that are often marginalized or misrepresented in mainstream Hollywood cinema. The respectful and authentic portrayal of Kandaki culture and the casting of actors from appropriate cultural backgrounds reflects growing awareness of the importance of cultural authenticity. The film's place within the larger DC extended universe creates opportunities for future stories that will continue to explore the tensions and possibilities inherent in a world populated by heroes with different moral codes and cultural backgrounds. The introduction of Black Adam as a major player in this universe promises future conflicts and alliances that will test the limits of heroic cooperation while also exploring new possibilities for storytelling. The philosophical questions raised by Black Adam about the nature of heroism, the appropriate use of power, and the relationship between individual conscience and institutional authority reflect broader concerns about leadership and moral responsibility that resonate far beyond the superhero genre. The film's willingness to engage with these complex questions, rather than providing simple answers, reflects a maturation of superhero storytelling's concern. The environmental themes present in the film, particularly the exploitation of Kandak's natural resources by foreign interests, connect to contemporary concerns about climate change, resource extraction, and environmental justice. The portrayal of Eternium mining as both environmentally destructive and politically oppressive reflects real-world concerns about the relationship between environmental exploitation and political control. The film's treatment of technology and its relationship to both magical and political power reflects contemporary anxieties about the role of advanced technology in modern warfare and social control. Intergame's use of sophisticated weapons and surveillance technology to maintain control over Kandak parallels real-world concerns about the militarization of police forces and the use of technology. The religious and spiritual themes present throughout the story, from the divine origins of Black Adam's powers to the demonic nature of Sabek's abilities, reflect the enduring human fascination with questions about the nature of good and evil and the role of supernatural forces in human affairs. The film's treatment of these themes avoids specific religious doctrine while drawing from universal spiritual concepts that resonate across culture. The educational value of Black Adam extends beyond its entertainment function, as the film's incorporation of Egyptian mythology and Middle Eastern history provides audiences with exposure to cultural traditions and historical perspectives that may be unfamiliar to many viewers. This educational aspect of the film reflects the potential of popular entertainment to serve broader cultural and social functions beyond mere amusement. The film's production history, including the long development process and the various script revisions that led to the final version, reflects the complexity of adapting comic book characters for film, while also addressing contemporary social and political concerns. The decision to give Black Adam his own film, rather than including him as a villain in a Shazam movie, reflects both the character's complexity and the recognition that modern audiences are ready for more morally ambiguous protagonists. The international box office performance of Black Adam demonstrates the global appeal of superhero stories that incorporate diverse cultural perspectives and address universal themes about power, justice, and moral responsibility. The film's success in international markets reflects the growing globalization of entertainment, and the importance of creating stories that resonate with audiences from different cultural backgrounds and political context. The merchandising and marketing campaign for Black Adam reflects the commercial realities of modern blockbuster filmmaking while also serving to extend the film's cultural impact beyond the cinema. The various tie-in products, from action figures to video games, help to keep the character and his story in the public consciousness while also providing additional revenue streams that support the production of future films. The critical analysis and academic discussion of Black Adam as both entertainment and cultural artifact reflects the growing recognition of superhero films as legitimate subjects for serious artistic and social criticism. The film's exploration of complex themes and its sophisticated production values justify its treatment as more than mere escapist entertainment, positioning it as a work worthy of serious critical attention and academic study. The influence of Black Adam on subsequent superhero films and television shows will likely be felt for years to come, as the success of its morally complex protagonist and its exploration of political and cultural themes demonstrates the viability of more sophisticated approaches to superhero storytelling. The film's impact on the genre may encourage other filmmakers to tackle similarly complex characters. The technological innovations developed for Black Adam's production, particularly in the areas of special effects and digital cinematography, contribute to the ongoing evolution of filmmaking techniques and capabilities. The advances in visual effects technology necessary to convincingly portray the character's superhuman abilities push the boundaries of what is possible in cinema, while also establishing new standards for future productions. The social media response to Black Adam reflects the changing nature of film marketing and audience engagement in the digital age, as fans and critics use online platforms to discuss and debate the film's themes, characters, and cultural significance. This ongoing dialogue extends the film's impact beyond its theatrical release and contributes to its long-term cultural significance. The home video and streaming release of Black Adam provides opportunities for more detailed analysis and appreciation of the film's technical and artistic achievements, as viewers can examine specific sequences and details that may be missed during a theatrical viewing. The availability of behind-the-scenes content and commentary tracks adds additional layers of understanding and appreciation for the creative process involved in bringing the story. The potential for sequels and spin-offs based on Black Adam and the other characters introduced in the film creates opportunities for expanded storytelling that can further explore the themes and conflicts established in the original movie. The rich mythology and complex characters provide ample material for future stories that can continue to push the boundaries of superhero cinema while also addressing evolving social and political concerns. The legacy of Black Adam as both a character and a film reflects the ongoing evolution of superhero storytelling, from simple morality tales to complex explorations of power, responsibility, and moral ambiguity. The film's success demonstrates that audiences are ready for more sophisticated and challenging superhero stories that acknowledge the complexity of real-world moral and political issues, while still providing the spectacular entertainment that defines the genre. In conclusion, Black Adam represents a significant achievement in superhero cinema, successfully balancing spectacular action with complex character development and meaningful exploration of contemporary social and political themes. The film's willingness to grapple with difficult questions about justice, power, and moral responsibility, while also delivering the visual spectacle and emotional satisfaction that audiences expect from superhero entertainment, demonstrates the maturation of the genre and its continued potential for artistic and cultural significance. Through its portrayal of a morally complex protagonist operating in a politically complicated world, Black Adam establishes new possibilities for superhero storytelling, while also honoring the mythological and cultural traditions that give the genre its enduring power and appeal. The deeper examination of Black Adam's character reveals layers of complexity that extend far beyond his initial presentation as an antihero. His relationship with power itself becomes a central theme that runs throughout the narrative, as the film explores how absolute power can corrupt even the most noble intentions, while also demonstrating that such power may sometimes be necessary to combat truly existential threats. The ancient champion's struggle with his own nature reflects universal human conflicts between our desire for justice and our capacity for vengeance. Dwayne The film's portrayal of Kondak as both an ancient kingdom and a modern nation serves multiple narrative functions, creating a bridge between mythological storytelling and contemporary political commentary. The nation's history of oppression and resistance provides context for Black Adam's actions, while also establishing the cyclical nature of historical context. The visual representation of Kondak draws from real Middle Eastern architecture and landscape, while incorporating fantastical elements that establish its unique place within the DC universe. Her cold, calculating approach to metahuman affairs represents the worst aspects of bureaucratic thinking, treating individuals with godlike powers as assets to be managed, rather than people with their own rights and motivations. The tension between Waller's institutional authority and Black Adam's personal sovereignty creates conflict that extends beyond simple good versus evil into questions about legitimacy and consent. The Justice Society's internal dynamics provide insight into the challenges of maintaining heroic ideals in a complex and morally ambiguous world. Each member of the team brings their own perspective and moral framework to their missions, creating natural tensions and disagreements about appropriate methods and goals. Hawkman's warrior ethos sometimes conflicts with Dr. Fate's mystical wisdom, while the younger heroes must navigate between. These internal conflicts reflect the broader challenge of maintaining unified purpose among individuals with diverse backgrounds and philosophies. The relationship between ancient magic and modern technology in Black Adam creates a unique aesthetic and thematic framework that distinguishes the film from other entries in the superhero genre. The juxtaposition of Eternium-powered mystical abilities with advanced military hardware creates visual and conceptual contrasts that emphasize the collision between different eras and worldviews. This technological mystical blend also serves practical storytelling functions, providing explanations for how ancient powers can remain relevant in contemporary conflicts. The film's exploration of leadership and responsibility through Black Adam's character development reveals the complexity of moral authority in situations where traditional institutions have failed. His rejection of formal political power in favor of direct protection reflects a philosophical position that prioritizes results over legitimacy, effectiveness over procedure. This approach creates both admirable outcomes and troubling precedents, as his success in protecting Kondak comes at the cost of established international law and diplomatic protocol. The supporting characters surrounding Black Adam serve to illuminate different aspects of his personality and moral framework. Adriana's academic background and commitment to peaceful resistance provide a counterpoint to his more violent methods, while her willingness to unleash him, despite the risks, demonstrates the desperation of Kondak's situation. Her brother Karim represents the common citizen caught between competing forces, trying to survive and protect his family while larger powers battle around him. These relationships ground the spectacular supernatural conflicts in recognizable human emotions and concerns. The visual effects work in Black Adam pushes the boundaries of what is possible in contemporary cinema, particularly in the realization of magical and supernatural phenomena. The lightning that serves as Black Adam's signature visual element is rendered with attention to its divine, rather than purely electrical nature, using color, movement, and interaction with the environment to establish its otherworldly origins. The transformation sequences that convert normal humans into supernatural beings utilize both practical and digital effects to create genuinely unsettling and awe-inspiring. The film's sound design creates an auditory landscape that supports both the intimate character moments and the spectacular action sequences. The rumble of Black Adam's lightning carries mystical undertones that distinguish it from natural electrical phenomena, while the various magical artifacts and supernatural beings each have their own distinct audio signatures. The score incorporates Middle Eastern musical traditions while also drawing from classical, orchestral, and contemporary electronic elements to create a unique sonic identity for the film. The cultural authenticity evident in Black Adam's portrayal of Middle Eastern society reflects serious research and consultation with cultural experts and community representatives. The costumes, architecture, language, and social customs depicted in the film draw from real traditions while also incorporating fantastical elements that serve the story's mythological themes. This attention to cultural accuracy helps to ground the supernatural elements in recognizable human contexts, while also providing respectful representation for communities often marginalized in mainstream entertainment. The film's treatment of family relationships extends beyond the immediate Tomaz family to explore broader themes about chosen family and community responsibility. Black Adam's gradual acceptance of his role as protector of Kondak reflects his growing understanding that his power comes with obligations, not just to abstract principles of justice, but to specific people who depend on his protection. This evolution from isolated individual to community guardian provides the emotional core of his character development throughout the story. The economic and political dimensions of the conflict in Kondak reflect real-world concerns about resource extraction, foreign intervention, and the relationship between local autonomy and global capitalism. Intergang's exploitation of the country's Eternium deposits mirrors historical and contemporary patterns of colonial and neo-colonial resource extraction, while the international community's response to Black Adam's emergence reflects ongoing debates about sovereignty and interventional affairs. The supernatural horror elements in Black Adam, particularly those associated with the Crown of Sabak and its demonic powers, draw from classical traditions of cosmic horror, while also serving contemporary anxieties about the corruption of power and the seductive nature of easy solutions to complex problems. Sabak's transformation from human criminal to demonic entity serves as a cautionary tale about the price of embracing evil, while his immense power demonstrates the genuine stakes involved in the mystical conflicts that drive the plot. The choreography of the action sequences in Black Adam reflects careful attention to each character's unique abilities and fighting style. Black Adam's combat approach emphasizes overwhelming power and directness, reflecting both his ancient origins and his impatience with prolonged conflict. The Justice Society members each bring their own tactical approaches, with Hawkman's aerial combat contrasting with Adam Smasher's ground-based power and Cyclone's environmental manipulation. These different styles create visually distinctive action sequences while also serving character development functions. The film's exploration of revenge versus justice becomes particularly complex when examined through the lens of historical trauma and collective memory. Black Adam's actions can be understood as both personal vengeance for his ancient imprisonment and broader justice for centuries of oppression suffered by the people of Kondak. This multi-layered motivation creates moral ambiguity that resists simple categorization, as his methods may be questionable, while his underlying grievances remain legitimate and compelling. The role of prophecy and destiny in Black Adam reflects classical mythological themes, while also engaging with contemporary questions about free will and moral responsibility. Dr. Fate's precognitive abilities reveal potential futures that seem inevitable, yet the actions of the various characters demonstrate that these futures can be altered through courage, sacrifice, and moral choice. This tension between fate and agency provides philosophical depth to what might otherwise be straightforward action sequences. The international political dimensions of Black Adam's story reflect contemporary global power. The response of various world governments to the emergence of a sovereign superhuman protector in Kondak mirrors real-world anxieties about the limits of international law and the challenge of maintaining global order in an era of increasingly powerful non-state actors. The film's treatment of religious and spiritual themes avoids specific denominational content while drawing from universal concepts about the relationship between divine power and human responsibility. Black Adam's abilities come from Egyptian gods, but their moral implications transcend specific religious traditions to address fundamental questions about the proper use of power and the obligations that come with extraordinary abilities. The educational aspects of Black Adam extend beyond entertainment to provide audiences with exposure to Egyptian mythology, Middle Eastern history, and contemporary geopolitical issues. The film's incorporation of authentic cultural elements and historical parallels creates opportunities for viewers to learn about traditions and perspectives that may be unfamiliar, while the contemporary political themes encourage reflection on current global challenges. The technical innovations required to realize Black Adam's vision pushed various departments to develop new techniques. The lightning effects required novel approaches to digital rendering. The flying sequences demanded new methods for combining practical and digital elements to create convincing superhuman flight. These technological advances contribute to the ongoing evolution of cinematic capabilities, while also setting new standards for future superhero productions. The film's marketing campaign reflected the complexity of positioning a morally ambiguous protagonist in a genre traditionally dominated by clear-cut heroes and villains. The promotional materials emphasized Black Adam's power and intensity, while also highlighting his role as protector of his people, creating a narrative framework that prepared audiences for a different kind of superhero story. The international marketing efforts paid particular attention to Middle Eastern and North African markets, recognizing the cultural significance of respectful representation in those regions. The merchandising opportunities created by Black Adam reflect both the commercial realities of modern blockbuster filmmaking and the cultural impact of successful character creation. Action figures, collectibles, and other tie-in products help to extend the film's reach beyond the cinema, while also providing additional revenue streams that support future production. The design of these products reflects the same attention to cultural authenticity and visual sophistication that characterizes the film itself. The critical reception of Black Adam revealed the ongoing evolution of both superhero cinema and film criticism more broadly. Traditional critics often struggled with the film's moral complexity and political themes, while audiences responded more positively to its spectacular action and character development. This divide reflects broader changes in how different communities engage with popular entertainment and the criteria they use to evaluate artistic and commercial success. The academic interest in Black Adam as a cultural artifact reflects the growing recognition of superhero films as legitimate subjects for serious scholarly analysis. The film's incorporation of mythological themes, political commentary, and cultural representation provides rich material for examination from multiple disciplinary perspectives, including film studies, cultural studies, political science, and religious studies. The influence of Black Adam on subsequent superhero productions can already be seen in the increased willingness of other films and television shows to explore. The commercial and critical success of the film has demonstrated that audiences are ready for more sophisticated superhero storytelling that acknowledges the complexity of real-world moral and political issues. The streaming and digital release of Black Adam provides opportunities for more detailed analysis and appreciation of the film's technical and artistic achievements. The ability to examine specific sequences multiple times allows viewers to appreciate subtle details in the visual effects, sound design, and performance work that may be missed during a single theatrical viewing. Commentary tracks and behind-the-scenes features provide additional insight into the creative process and the various decisions that shaped the final product. The potential for expanded universe storytelling based on Black Adam creates opportunities for deeper exploration of the themes and characters introduced in the original film. Spin-off projects focusing on individual Justice Society members could explore their backgrounds and motivations in greater detail, while sequels could continue to develop Black Adam's character and his relationships with other heroes and villains in the DC universe. The social media discourse surrounding Black Adam reflects the changing nature of film reception and analysis in the digital age. Online discussions allow for immediate and ongoing conversation about the film's themes, characters, and cultural significance, extending its impact far beyond the theatrical release period. The international box office performance of Black Adam demonstrates the global appetite for superhero stories that incorporate diverse cultural perspectives and address universal themes about power, justice, and moral responsibility. The film's success in markets outside North America reflects the increasing globalization of entertainment and the importance of creating content that resonates with audiences from different cultural and political backgrounds. The legacy aspects of Black Adam's story, particularly the connections between ancient and modern conflicts, provide rich material for ongoing exploration in future installments. The cyclical nature of oppression and resistance in Kandak's history suggests that the themes explored in the original film will remain relevant for future stories, while the introduction of supernatural and mystical elements creates possibilities for conflicts that transcend. The character development arcs in Black Adam provide templates for future superhero storytelling that prioritizes moral complexity and psychological depth over simple heroic archetypes. The film's success in creating a compelling protagonist who operates outside traditional heroic frameworks demonstrates the viability of more nuanced approaches to character development within the constraints of blockbuster entertainment. The environmental themes present in Black Adam, particularly the exploitation of natural resources and the environmental consequences of industrial extraction, connect to contemporary concerns about climate change and environmental justice. The film's portrayal of Eternium mining as both environmentally destructive and politically oppressive reflects real-world concerns about the relationship between environmental exploitation and social inequality. The technological themes in Black Adam, particularly the tension between advanced surveillance and weapons technology and individual privacy and autonomy, reflect contemporary anxieties about the role of technology in modern society. Intergang's use of sophisticated monitoring and control systems parallels real-world concerns about corporate and governmental surveillance, while their advanced weapons technology. The philosophical questions raised by Black Adam about the nature of justice, the appropriate use of power, and the relationship between individual conscience and collective responsibility extend far beyond the superhero genre to address fundamental questions about ethics and political philosophy. The film's willingness to engage with these complex questions, rather than providing simple answers, reflects a sophistication in superhero storytelling. The production design of Black Adam creates a visual world that seamlessly integrates ancient and modern elements, while also reflecting the cultural authenticity and attention to detail that characterizes the entire production. The design of costumes, sets, and props reflects extensive research into both historical and contemporary Middle Eastern culture, while also incorporating fantastical elements that support the story's mythological themes. The casting choices in Black Adam reflect both artistic and commercial considerations while also demonstrating commitment to authentic cultural representation. The decision to cast actors with appropriate cultural backgrounds in key roles reflects growing awareness of the importance of representation in mainstream entertainment, while the choice of established stars like Dwayne Johnson ensures commercial viability and audience recognition. The film's exploration of trauma and healing, both individual and collective, provides emotional depth that grounds the spectacular supernatural conflicts in recognizable human experiences. Black Adam's own trauma, from millennia of imprisonment, and the collective trauma of the Kandaki people, from generations of oppression, create parallel narratives of recovery and empowerment that resonate. The mentorship themes in Black Adam, particularly the relationships between older and younger heroes within the Justice Society, reflect broader concerns about the transmission of values and knowledge across generations. The interactions between experienced heroes like Hawkman and Dr. Fate, and younger heroes like Atom Smasher and Cyclone, demonstrate both the possibilities and the challenges of heroic education. The film's treatment of sacrifice and loss, particularly through Dr. Fate's ultimate sacrifice, explores themes about the cost of heroism and the weight of moral responsibility. The emotional impact of these losses affects all the surviving characters and provides opportunities for character growth and development that extend beyond the immediate narrative into future storytelling possibilities. The relationship between individual heroism and collective action in Black Adam reflects broader questions about the role of exceptional individuals in social and political change. Black Adam's ability to single-handedly defeat Kandak's oppressors raises questions about the relationship between superhuman intervention and popular resistance, while the Justice Society's team-based approach demonstrates alternative models of heroic action. The film's exploration of cultural identity and belonging, particularly through Black Adam's gradual reconnection with his people and their contemporary struggles, provides opportunities for examining how individuals relate to their cultural heritage and historical identity, his evolution from isolated ancient being to engaged community. Protector reflects broader themes about the relationship between personal identity and collective response. The economic themes in Black Adam, particularly the exploitation of natural resources and the relationship between local communities and global capitalism, reflect contemporary concerns about economic inequality and the concentration of wealth and power. The film's portrayal of intergangs operations in Kondak mirrors real-world patterns of resource extraction and economic exploitation that continue to affect development. The film's treatment of violence and its consequences provides opportunities for examining different philosophical approaches to conflict resolution and the use of force in pursuit of justice. Black Adam's willingness to use lethal force contrasts with the Justice Society's more restrained approach, creating ongoing tension that reflects broader debates about proportionality, effectiveness, and moral responsibility in the use of violence. The supernatural and mystical elements of Black Adam connect the story to broader traditions of fantasy and horror literature, while also serving contemporary anxieties about the limits of rational understanding and scientific control. The presence of genuine magic and supernatural forces in the story creates possibilities for conflicts and resolutions that transcend normal political and social categories. The film's examination of power dynamics, both interpersonal and institutional, provides insight into how authority operates at different levels of society and how individuals with exceptional abilities navigate existing power structures. Black Adam's relationship with both governmental authority figures, like Amanda Waller, and local resistance leaders, like Adriana, demonstrates different approaches to engaging with institutional power. The artistic achievements of Black Adam, particularly in the areas of visual effects, production design, and cinematography, contribute to the ongoing evolution of superhero cinema as both commercial entertainment and legitimate artistic expression. The film's technical sophistication and cultural authenticity demonstrate that blockbuster filmmaking can achieve both commercial success and artistic merit without compromising either goal. The deeper psychological exploration of Black Adam reveals how trauma and isolation have shaped his worldview in ways that extend far beyond his immediate actions in Kondak. His millennia of imprisonment have created a psychological landscape dominated by hypervigilance and an inability to trust in gradual or peaceful solutions to injustice. This psychological profile manifests in his immediate resort to overwhelming force when confronted with threats, reflecting not just his vast power, but also his deep-seated fear of allowing evil to flourish unchecked, as it did during his original lifetime. The cultural significance of Eternium within Kondaki society extends beyond its practical applications to represent the spiritual and historic. The metal's unique properties connect it directly to the magical forces that created Black Adam, making its exploitation by foreign interests not merely economic colonialism, but a form of spiritual violation. This deeper connection between the natural resources and the mystical heritage of Kondak provides additional layers of meaning to the conflict between local autonomy and foreign exploitation. The film's portrayal of media manipulation and information warfare through Intergang's control of local communications networks reflects contemporary concerns about the role of information control in maintaining oppressive systems. Their ability to control narrative and suppress dissent through technological means parallels real-world concerns about media ownership and the use of information technology to maintain political control. The contrast between official narratives and lived reality becomes a crucial element in understanding how oppression operates in the modern world. The generational dynamics within the Justice Society reveal how different cohorts of heroes have developed distinct approaches to heroism based on their formative experiences and the challenges they faced during their early careers. The older members like Hawkman and Dr. Fate carry the weight of longer experience, but also the burden of accumulated failures and compromises, while younger members bring fresh perspectives but lack the hard-earned wisdom that comes from facing truly existential threats. The relationship between divine power and moral responsibility in Black Adam explores theological questions about whether godlike abilities inherently carry divine mandate, or whether such power must be justified through human moral frameworks. His abilities come from Egyptian gods, but his application of those abilities must be evaluated according to human standards of justice and proportionality. The film's examination of collective memory and historical consciousness through the parallel between ancient and modern Kondak demonstrates how historical trauma continues to shape contemporary political and social realities. The patterns of oppression and resistance that defined ancient Kondak under King Oktan continue to manifest in modern forms under Intergang's control, suggesting that fundamental conflicts between exploitation and liberation transcend specific. The environmental consequences of Eternium mining provide a framework for examining how resource extraction affects not only local communities, but also global ecological systems. The mystical properties of Eternium mean that its removal from Kondak has implications beyond immediate environmental damage, potentially disrupting magical and spiritual balances that affect regions far beyond the mining site. This expanded understanding of environmental impact reflects growing awareness of interconnection and system-level thinking in environmental science. The technological surveillance systems employed by Intergang represent more than mere plot devices, serving as commentary on contemporary concerns about privacy, autonomy, and the use of advanced technology for social control. Their ability to monitor and track the activities of Kandaki citizens reflects real-world concerns about government and corporate surveillance, while their weaponized drones and automated systems raise questions about the militarization of civilian spaces. The character arc of Adriana Tomaz reveals how ordinary individuals can become heroic through their willingness to take personal risks for collective benefit, even when they lack superhuman abilities. Her evolution from academic researcher to active resistance leader demonstrates that heroism exists on multiple levels, and that the most important heroic acts may be those performed by individuals without special powers who choose to act despite the personal costs involved. The mystical architecture and sacred geometry present in Black Adam's tomb and other ancient sites reflect deeper connections between mathematical principles and the precise arrangements of stones, the specific proportions of chambers, and the intricate hieroglyphic systems all serve both practical functions in containing or channeling supernatural energies and symbolic functions in representing cosmic principles and divine relationships. The film's treatment of diplomatic immunity and international law through the Justice Society's official status raises complex questions about the legitimacy of their quasi-governmental authorization provides legal cover for their actions, but also raises questions about which authorities have the right to authorize such interventions and whether local sovereignty can ever truly be respected when external agents possess overwhelming power advantages. The psychological impact of Dr. Fate's precognitive abilities creates unique dramatic tension, as other characters must grapple with knowledge of potential futures, while still his ability to see multiple possible timelines means that every action carries weight, not just for its immediate consequences, but for its impact on the probability of various futures, creating a burden of responsibility that extends far beyond normal decision-making processes. The economic warfare aspects of Intergang's operations in Kondak demonstrate how financial systems and trade relationships can be weaponized to maintain political control without traditional military occupation. Their manipulation of currency, control of supply chains, and influence over international investment create forms of domination that are less visible than direct military control but potentially more effective and longer-lasting in their effects. The film's exploration of religious syncretism and cultural adaptation through the blending of Egyptian, Middle Eastern, and contemporary spiritual traditions reflects the dynamic nature of cultural identity and religious practice in a globalized world. Black Adam's divine powers come from ancient Egyptian sources, but their application in modern Kondak must account for the religious and cultural evolution that has occurred over millennia of historical change. The tactical innovations required for the Justice Society to effectively coordinate their diverse abilities against superhuman threats demonstrate the complexity of team-based heroics when dealing with opponents who exceed normal humans. Each member must adapt their individual fighting style to complement their teammates while also accounting for the unique challenges posed by enemies who operate on entirely different scales of power and speed. The social stratification within Kondak under Intergang's control reflects broader patterns of how criminal organizations and corrupt governments create and maintain systems of inequality that serve their interests. The division between collaborators who profit from the system and resistors who suffer under it creates internal tensions that affect how liberation movements develop and operate, with implications for post-liberation, reconstruction, and reconciliation. The film's portrayal of ancient Egyptian magical practices and their relationship to contemporary understanding of physics and natural law creates opportunities for exploring. The divine powers that created Black Adam operate according to principles that may not be fully comprehensible through modern scientific frameworks, yet they produce effects that can be observed and measured using contemporary technology. The relationship between individual trauma and collective healing in Black Adam's character development demonstrates how personal psychological work and community engagement can be mutually reinforcing processes. His gradual reconnection with his people and their struggles helps him process his own historical trauma, while his healing enables him to be more effective as their protector and advocate. The film's examination of masculine identity and emotional expression through Black Adam's stoic exterior and gradually revealed vulnerability reflects broader cultural conversations about how men process and express trauma, grief, and connection. His ancient cultural background provides context for his emotional restraint, while his contemporary relationships challenge him to develop new forms of emotional intelligence and communication. The technological integration between Eternium-powered mystical artifacts and modern electronic systems creates unique possibilities for both creative applications and catastrophic failures. The combination of ancient magical principles with contemporary engineering produces hybrid technologies that operate according to rules that neither purely magical nor purely technological systems can fully predict or control. The film's treatment of exile and return through Black Adam's relationship with Kondak explores themes about how individuals maintain connection to home and community across vast distances of time. His physical absence from his homeland for millennia creates challenges in reconnecting with evolved cultural practices and social structures while maintaining continuity with his original identity and mission. The strategic implications of Black Adam's emergence for global power balances force various international actors to recalculate their approaches to Middle Eastern politics. His ability to single-handedly neutralize conventional military forces means that traditional geopolitical calculations, based on military strength and economic leverage, must be revised to account for superhuman intervention capabilities. The film's exploration of mentorship and legacy through the relationships between the relationships demonstrates how heroic knowledge and wisdom are transmitted across generations, and between different heroic wisdom are transmitted across generations. The Justice Society members must adapt their teaching approaches to account for the unique challenges posed by opponents who operate outside normal human moral and physical frameworks. The environmental restoration possibilities inherent in removing Intergang's industrial operations from Kondak create opportunities for examining how communities can recover from ecological damage while also rebuilding social and political institutions. The interconnection between environmental health and social well-being becomes particularly relevant when dealing with mystical resources that affect both physical and spiritual aspects of community life. The film's treatment of prophetic literature and apocalyptic imagery through Dr. Fate's visions and the crown of Sabek's demonic associations draws from religious and mythological traditions while adapting them for contemporary superhero narratives. The imagery of cosmic conflict between divine and demonic forces provides framework for understanding the stakes involved in seemingly local political conflicts. The psychological warfare tactics employed by Intergang to maintain control over local populations demonstrate how fear and hopelessness can be systematically cultivated to prevent resistance movements from developing effective organization and popular support. Their methods of intimidation and collective punishment create trauma responses that extend far beyond immediate victims to affect entire communities and social networks. The film's examination of architectural symbolism through the design of both ancient temples and modern Intergang facilities reveals how built environments reflect and reinforce particular power relationships and worldviews. The contrast between spaces designed for spiritual communion and those designed for industrial extraction demonstrates how physical design can either support human flourishing or facilitate exploitation and control. The relationship between individual conscience and collective action in the Justice Society's decision-making processes reflects broader questions about how groups with shared values navigate disagreements about tactics and their ability to maintain unity while accommodating different perspectives on appropriate heroic behavior provides a model for democratic decision-making under pressure. The film's portrayal of medical and healing practices in Kondak demonstrates how traditional knowledge systems and modern healthcare approaches can complement each other in addressing both individual and community well-being. The integration of mystical healing practices with contemporary medical technology reflects broader themes about cultural adaptation and the value of preserving traditional knowledge alongside technological advancement. The economic development possibilities created by Black Adam's protection of Kondak from foreign exploitation create opportunities for examining how communities can build sustainable prosperity while maintaining cultural identity and political autonomy. The challenge of developing local economic capacity without recreating the extractive relationships that characterized previous foreign involvement requires careful attention to both practical economics and political sovereignty. The film's treatment of linguistic diversity and communication challenges through the various languages spoken by different characters reflects the complexity of cross-cultural cooperation and the importance of translation and interpretation in international collaboration. The ability of various characters to communicate across linguistic barriers becomes both a practical necessity and a symbolic representation of their commitment to mutual understanding. The relationship between magical knowledge and scientific understanding, in the interactions between Dr. Fate and more technology-oriented heroes, demonstrates how different systems of knowledge can inform and enhance each other rather than existing in opposition. The integration of mystical insights with empirical observation creates possibilities for understanding and addressing threats that neither approach could handle independently. The film's exploration of urban planning and community development through the contrast between areas controlled by Intergang and those liberated by Black Adam demonstrates how physical infrastructure and social organization reflect and reinforce particular political arrangements. The process of rewilding the strategic communication challenges faced by the resistance movement in conveying their message to international audiences while avoiding Intergang's information control systems reflect contemporary concerns about media manipulation and the difficulty of maintaining accurate information flows in contested political environments. Their success in documenting and disseminating evidence of oppression becomes crucial for building international support and the film's treatment of intergenerational conflict and cooperation through the relationships between older and younger characters demonstrates how different generations bring distinct perspectives and capabilities to shared challenges. The combination of accumulated wisdom and fresh perspectives creates synergies that prove essential for addressing threats that transcend normal temporal and cultural boundaries. The relationship between physical space and spiritual significance in Kandak's sacred sites demonstrates how geography and architecture can serve religious and cultural functions that extend far beyond their immediate practical purposes. The protection of these sites becomes not just a matter of historical preservation, but also of maintaining the spiritual and cultural foundation that gives the community its identity and resilience. The film's examination of technological dependence and vulnerability through Intergang's reliance on advanced systems demonstrates how sophisticated technology can become both a source of power and a potential weakness when opponents develop countermeasures or when systems fail under unexpected stresses. Their technological advantages prove less decisive when facing opponents who operate according to different principles entirely. The psychological dimensions of heroic identity formation in the younger Justice Society members reveal how individuals develop the moral frameworks and emotional resilience necessary for effective heroic action. Their growth throughout the story demonstrates that heroism requires not just special abilities, but also the wisdom and emotional maturity to use those abilities responsibly. The film's treatment of economic inequality and social stratification within Kandak demonstrates how oppressive systems create and maintain hierarchies that serve the interests of local collaborators and foreign exploiters, while keeping the majority of the population in poverty and powerlessness. The dismantling of these systems requires addressing both their material and ideological foundation. The relationship between individual sacrifice and collective benefit throughout the story explores fundamental questions about moral obligation and the extent to which individuals should be expected to risk personal welfare for broader social goods. The various sacrifices made by different characters provide different models for understanding heroic responsibility and the costs of moral action. The film's exploration of cultural preservation and adaptation through Kandak's efforts to maintain traditional practices while engaging with contemporary global systems reflects broader challenges faced by communities seeking to preserve cultural identity while participating in modern economic and political structures. The balance between tradition and adaptation becomes crucial for long-term cultural survival and community well-being. The technological archaeology aspects of discovering ancient Kandaki artifacts reveal how advanced civilizations of the past incorporated mystical elements into their engineering and architectural practices in ways that modern science is only beginning to understand. The excavation techniques required to safely uncover Eternium-enhanced structures demand new approaches that combine traditional archaeological methods with magical protection protocols. The diplomatic complexities surrounding Black Adam's emergence create unprecedented challenges for international law and global governance structures that were never designed to address the presence of individuals with godlike powers operating as sovereign entities. Traditional concepts of national sovereignty and international intervention become meaningless when a single individual possesses the ability to reshape political realities through direct action, forcing legal scholars and political theorists to develop entirely new frameworks for understanding power and legitimacy in a post-superhuman world. The film's examination of ritual and ceremony in ancient Kandaki culture demonstrates how communities use symbolic actions and sacred practices to maintain connections to their history and values across generations of political and social change. The preservation of these traditions, despite centuries of foreign domination, reflects the resilience of cultural identity and the importance of spiritual practices in maintaining community cohesion. The economic transformation of Kondak following Black Adam's intervention creates opportunities for examining how communities can build sustainable development models that prioritize local well-being over external profit extraction. The challenge of creating economic systems that generate prosperity while maintaining environmental sustainability and cultural authenticity requires innovative approaches that integrate traditional knowledge with contemporary economics. The psychological impact of witnessing superhuman conflict on ordinary citizens reveals how exposure to godlike displays of power affects human understanding of reality and possibility. The presence of beings who can reshape matter and energy through will alone challenges fundamental assumptions about the nature of existence and humanity's place in the cosmic order, creating both inspiration and existential anxiety among populations who must continue their daily lives. The film's treatment of water rights and resource management through the control of Kandak's river systems demonstrates how environmental resources become tools of political control and how their liberation requires not just military victory, but also the development of sustainable management practices that serve community needs rather than external profit motives. The mystical properties of water sources in Kandak add additional complexity to these challenges, as their supernatural aspects require management approaches that account for both physical and spiritual dimensions. The relationship between individual heroic action and systemic social change throughout the story explores whether single powerful individuals can truly address structural problems or whether lasting transformation requires greater community engagement. Black Adam's ability to eliminate immediate threats through overwhelming force contrasts with the slower but potentially more sustainable approaches required for building democratic governance and economic justice. The film's exploration of artistic expression and cultural production under oppressive conditions reveals how communities maintain their identity and resist demoralization through creative work that preserves and transmits cultural values despite political suppression. The underground networks of artists, musicians, and storytellers in Kondak serve functions that extend far beyond entertainment to include historical preservation, political resistance, and community healing. The technological integration between ancient mystical practices and contemporary scientific understanding creates new possibilities for addressing both supernatural threats and conventional challenges through hybrid approaches that draw from multiple knowledge systems. The combination of magical healing techniques with modern medical technology produces treatment methods that exceed the capabilities of either approach used independently, while mystical enhancement of technological systems creates tools with capabilities that transcend normal engineering limitations. The film's examination of gender roles and power dynamics within both traditional Kandaki society and the contemporary resistance movement demonstrates how social transformation requires attention to all forms of inequality and oppression, not just those most visible to external observers. The evolution of women's roles from traditional domestic responsibilities to leadership positions in the liberation struggle reflects broader processes of social change. The relationship between local knowledge and external expertise in addressing Kandak's challenges reveals the importance of respecting community wisdom and experience, while also incorporating valuable insights from outside sources. The most effective solutions emerge from collaborative processes that combine the deep understanding, that comes from lived experience with specialized knowledge and resources that may not be available within the local community. The film's treatment of death and mourning practices in Kandaki culture provides insight into how communities process loss and maintain connections to ancestors and spiritual traditions, despite the disruptions caused by political violence and cultural suppression. The preservation of funeral rites and memorial practices serves both psychological and social functions, helping individuals cope with grief while maintaining community bonds and historical continuity. The strategic implications of Eternium's unique properties for global energy systems and technological development create geopolitical tensions that extend far beyond Kandak's immediate borders. The metal's ability to enhance both magical and technological systems makes it a crucial resource for any nation seeking to maintain competitive advantages in an increasingly complex international environment, while its limited availability and cultural significance to Kandak create conflicts between global demand and local sovereignty. The film's exploration of educational systems and knowledge transmission under occupation demonstrates how oppressive regimes attempt to control populations through limiting access to information and alternative perspectives, while resistance movements work to preserve and share knowledge that supports community identity and political consciousness. The underground schools and cultural education programs in Kandak serve as sites of both practical learning. The relationship between physical healing and spiritual restoration in the aftermath of violence reveals how communities must address multiple dimensions of trauma and damage in order to achieve genuine recovery and reconciliation. The mystical healing practices available in Kandak provide models for understanding how individual and collective healing processes can support each other, while addressing both visible wounds and deeper spiritual. The film's treatment of agricultural practices and food security under intergang's control demonstrates how access to basic necessities becomes weaponized in systems of oppression, and how food sovereignty connects to broader struggles for political and economic independence. The restoration of traditional farming methods and the protection of seed stocks become acts of resistance that support both immediate survival and long-term community. The technological surveillance countermeasures developed by the Kandaki resistance movement reveal how communities can adapt to oppressive monitoring systems while maintaining necessary communication and coordination capabilities. The combination of traditional concealment techniques with mystical protection methods creates security approaches that can defeat both conventional and supernatural surveillance systems. The film's examination of historical documentation and memory preservation demonstrates how communities maintain accurate records of oppression and resistance despite efforts by occupying forces to control or distort historical narratives. The protection of archives, oral histories, and physical evidence becomes crucial for maintaining community identity and supporting future accountability processes. The relationship between individual trauma recovery and community healing processes reveals how personal psychological work and collective social transformation can support and enhance each other. The therapeutic practices available in Kandak integrate individual counseling with community ritual and social support systems that address trauma at multiple levels simultaneously. The film's treatment of transportation infrastructure and mobility rights under occupation shows how control of movement becomes a tool of oppression, while the restoration of free movement supports both practical community needs and symbolic assertions of freedom and dignity. The development of transportation systems that serve local needs, rather than extraction industries, represents a crucial element of post-liberation reconstruction. The strategic communication challenges involved in building international support for Kandak's liberation require sophisticated understanding of global media systems and diplomatic processes while also maintaining authenticity to local experiences and perspectives. The balance between making universal appeals for justice and preserving specifically Kandaki cultural and political identity. The film's exploration of conflict resolution and reconciliation processes following liberation reveals the complexity of rebuilding communities that have been divided by collaboration, resistance, and survival strategies under oppressive conditions. The development of truth and reconciliation processes that acknowledge harm while promoting healing requires approaches that integrate traditional justice practices with contemporary understanding of trauma and community rest. The relationship between mystical protection practices and physical security measures in safeguarding Kandak's liberation demonstrates how traditional spiritual practices can complement and enhance contemporary security approaches. The integration of magical wards with conventional defensive systems creates protection capabilities that exceed what either approach could achieve independently. The film's treatment of economic development planning and resource management in post-liberation, Kandak explores how communities can build prosperity that serves local needs while maintaining sustainable relationships with global economic systems. The challenge of avoiding new forms of economic exploitation while accessing necessary resources and markets requires careful attention to both economic theory and political sovereignty. The technological innovation possibilities created by combining Eternium enhancement with various contemporary systems reveal new frontiers for human capability and social organization. The potential applications extend from medical devices and communication systems to transportation and energy generation, creating possibilities for technological advancement that could benefit communities worldwide while respecting Kandak's sovereignty. The film's examination of cultural exchange and international cooperation in the post-liberation period demonstrates how communities can engage with global partners while maintaining their identity and autonomy. The development of relationships based on mutual respect and shared benefit rather than exploitation requires new models for international engagement that prioritize cultural sovereignty alongside political and economic independence. The relationship between individual creative expression and collective cultural preservation reveals how artists and cultural workers serve essential functions in maintaining community identity and processing shared experiences of oppression and liberation. The flourishing of artistic production following Kandak's liberation. The flourishing of artistic production following Kandak's liberation provides both personal healing opportunities and community. The film's treatment of legal system reconstruction and justice processes following liberation explores how communities can develop institutions that reflect their values while also meeting international standards for human rights and due process. The integration of traditional justice practices with contemporary legal frameworks requires careful attention to both cultural authenticity and practical effectiveness. The environmental restoration challenges following the end of extractive mining operations require comprehensive approaches that address both immediate ecological damage and long-term sustainability goals. The mystical properties of Kandak's natural systems add complexity to restoration efforts, while also providing unique opportunities for healing that exceed conventional environmental remediation capabilities. The film's exploration of international development cooperation and technical assistance reveals how external support can enhance local capacity building without recreating dependent relationships or undermining community autonomy. The most effective assistance programs combine resource sharing with skills transfer while respecting local knowledge and decision-making authority. The relationship between traditional governance systems and contemporary democratic institutions in post-liberation Kandak demonstrates how communities can honor their historical practices while adapting to modern political realities and international expectations. The development of hybrid governance approaches requires careful balance between cultural continuity and practical effectiveness. The film's treatment of public health infrastructure and healthcare system development following liberation reveals how communities can build health services that integrate traditional healing practices with contemporary medical technology. The mystical healing capabilities available in Kandak provide unique opportunities for developing healthcare approaches that address both physical and spiritual dimensions of wellness. The technological education and skills development programs necessary for managing Eternium-enhanced systems safely and effectively require new approaches to technical training that combine engineering knowledge with mystical understanding. The development of educational curricula that can prepare students for working with hybrid magical technological systems represents a significant innovation in technical education. The film's examination of media development and information systems in liberated Kandak explores how communities can build communication infrastructure that serves local needs while also engaging effectively with international audiences. The balance between maintaining cultural authenticity and achieving global accessibility requires sophisticated understanding of both local values and international communication practice. The relationship between economic independence and political sovereignty throughout Kandak's post-liberation development demonstrates how financial autonomy supports democratic governance, while economic vulnerability can undermine political freedom. The development of economic systems that generate local prosperity while maintaining global engagement requires innovative approaches to trade, investment, and resource management. The archaeological implications of Black Adam's awakening extend far beyond the immediate discovery of his tomb, as seismic disturbances and mystical energy releases have revealed previously unknown chambers and artifact caches throughout Kondak. These secondary discoveries include tablets detailing advanced metallurgical techniques for working with Eternium, astronomical calculations that incorporate magical principles alongside mathematical formulas, and architectural blueprints for structures that could channel and amplify supernatural energies for peaceful purposes, rather than warfare or oppression. The linguistic analysis of ancient Kondaki texts, recovered from newly accessible sites, reveals that the civilization possessed sophisticated understanding of magical theory and practice that rivals contemporary mystical knowledge. The integration of practical engineering with mystical principles in these documents suggests that the historical separation between magic and technology may be a relatively recent development. The film's exploration of refugee displacement and resettlement processes during and after the liberation struggle demonstrates how conflict affects populations beyond immediate combatants, creating humanitarian challenges that require coordinated response from both local communities and international organizations. The mystical aspects of Kondaki culture add complexity to resettlement efforts, as displaced populations must maintain access to sacred sites and cultural practices that may be geographically specific or require particular environmental conditions. The relationship between individual psychological resilience and community support systems in processing mass trauma reveals how healing occurs at multiple scales, simultaneously, with personal recovery supporting collective. The traditional Kondaki approaches to trauma processing integrate ritual, storytelling, and practical mutual aid in ways that address both immediate crisis response and long-term recovery needs. The film's treatment of intellectual property and cultural heritage protection in the context of ancient knowledge systems explores how communities can maintain control over traditional practices and knowledge while engaging with global research and development networks. The unique properties of Eternium and associated magical practices create particular challenges for protecting indigenous knowledge while allowing beneficial applications that could serve broader humanitarian purposes. The technological adaptation processes required for integrating Eternium-enhanced systems into existing infrastructure demonstrate how communities can modernize their capabilities while maintaining cultural continuity and environment. The development of hybrid systems that combine mystical enhancement with contemporary engineering requires new approaches to technology transfer and capacity building that respect both traditional knowledge and modern technical standards. The film's examination of diplomatic protocol and international recognition processes for newly sovereign states reveals how established global institutions adapt to changing political realities while maintaining. Black Adam's role as both head of state and superhuman protector creates unprecedented challenges for diplomatic engagement that require new frameworks for understanding sovereignty and representation in international affairs. The relationship between artistic expression and political resistance throughout Kondak's liberation struggle demonstrates how creative work serves multiple functions beyond entertainment or aesthetic plemination. The flourishing of artistic production following liberation provides both celebration of freedom and processing of trauma, while also attracting international attention and support for ongoing development efforts. The film's treatment of environmental justice and ecological restoration as components of broader social transformation reveals how communities understand the interconnections between human well-being and environmental. The mystical properties of Kondak's natural systems create unique opportunities for ecological restoration that exceed conventional environmental remediation, while also supporting traditional cultural practices that depend on healthy ecosystems. The educational system reconstruction challenges in post-liberation Kondak require developing curricula that honor traditional knowledge, while also preparing students for engagement with contemporary global systems. The integration of mystical studies with conventional academic subjects creates new possibilities for holistic education that addresses both practical skills and spiritual development while also maintaining cultural authenticity and promoting critical thinking. The film's exploration of healthcare system development demonstrates how communities can build medical infrastructure that integrates traditional healing practices with contemporary medical infrastructure that integrates technology, while the mystical healing capabilities available in Kondak provide unique opportunities for developing treatment approaches that address physical, psychological, and spiritual dimensions of wellness simultaneously. The relationship between local food systems and cultural identity in Kondak reveals how agricultural practices serve functions beyond mere nutrition, including cultural preservation, environmental stewardship, and economic independence. The restoration of traditional farming methods and the development of sustainable agriculture systems that incorporate both ancestral wisdom and contemporary ecological science create models for food sovereignty that support both individual health and community resilience. The film's treatment of water management and resource distribution demonstrates how access to clean water becomes both. The mystical properties of certain water sources in Kondak add spiritual dimensions to water management that require approaches integrating both practical engineering and traditional ceremonial practices. The technological innovation possibilities created by studying the intersection between mystical forces and contemporary physics reveal new frontiers for scientific understanding and practical application. The research collaborations between Kondaki traditional knowledge holders and international scientists create opportunities for breakthroughs that could benefit global development while respecting indigenous intellectual property and cultural sovereignty. The film's examination of conflict prevention and peacekeeping strategies in the post-liberation period explores how communities can build institutions and practices that address disputes and tension. The integration of traditional mediation practices with contemporary conflict resolution techniques creates approaches that are both culturally authentic and practically effective for maintaining social stability. The relationship between economic development and cultural preservation throughout Kondak's reconstruction reveals how communities can build prosperity without sacrificing their identity or value. The development of tourism, cultural exchange programs, and traditional craft industries creates economic opportunities that celebrate rather than exploit cultural heritage while also providing sustainable livelihoods for community members. The film's treatment of public safety and law enforcement in liberated Kondak demonstrates how communities can maintain security and order while avoiding the oppressive practices that characterized the previous occupation. The development of community-based policing approaches that emphasize service and protection rather than control and punishment requires careful attention to both practical effectiveness and cultural values. The technological infrastructure development challenges in post-liberation Kondak require building systems that can support modern communication and commerce while also maintaining security against potential external interference or internal sabotage. The integration of mystical protection methods with conventional cybersecurity approaches creates unique capabilities for protecting critical systems, while also respecting traditional spiritual practices. The film's exploration of mental health services and psychological support systems reveals how communities can address the widespread trauma caused by occupation and conflict, while building resilience for ongoing. The integration of traditional healing. The relationship between transportation infrastructure and economic development in Kondak demonstrates how mobility and connectivity serve both practical and symbolic functions in community building and international engagement. The development of transportation systems that serve local needs while also facilitating international trade and cultural exchange requires careful balance between accessibility and security, tradition and modernization. The film's treatment of energy systems and power generation explores how communities can achieve energy independence while maintaining environmental sustainability and cultural authenticity. The potential applications of Eternium in energy generation create unique opportunities for developing clean, efficient power systems while also respecting the spiritual significance of these resources within traditional Kondaki culture. The archaeological preservation challenges created by ongoing development and reconstruction efforts require approaches that balance historical protection with practical community needs. The integration of archaeological site management with urban planning creates opportunities for preserving cultural heritage while also supporting contemporary development goals and community prosperity. The film's examination of international trade relationships and economic partnerships demonstrate the development of trade agreements that respect Kandak's sovereignty while providing access to international markets requires sophisticated negotiation and careful attention to both economic and political considerations. The relationship between traditional governance systems and modern democratic institutions reveals how communities can honor their historical practices while adapting to contemporary political realities. The development of hybrid governance approaches that combine traditional wisdom with democratic accountability creates models for political organization that are both culturally authentic and practically effective. The film's treatment of cultural documentation and heritage preservation explores how communities can maintain accurate records of their traditions and history, while also adapting to changing circumstances and new challenges. The development of multimedia archives that combine written documentation with oral history, artistic expression, and ceremonial practice creates comprehensive approaches to cultural preservation that serve both community identity and educational purposes. The technological research and development possibilities created by Eternium-enhanced systems reveal new frontiers for innovation that could benefit global development while respecting Kandak's sovereignty. The establishment of research partnerships that combine local knowledge with international expertise creates opportunities for breakthroughs in fields ranging from energy generation to medical treatment while maintaining cultural authenticity and community control. The film's exploration of social services and community support systems demonstrates how liberated communities can build institutions that provide for individual needs while strengthening collective solidarity. The integration of traditional community support practices with contemporary social service delivery creates comprehensive approaches to addressing poverty, disability, and other challenges while maintaining cultural values and community cohesion. The relationship between religious freedom and cultural identity in post-liberation Kandak reveals how communities can honor diverse spiritual traditions while maintaining social unity and shared civic values. The development of policies that protect religious expression while promoting tolerance and mutual understanding creates frameworks for managing diversity that support both individual rights and community harmony. The film's treatment of environmental monitoring and protection systems explores how communities can safeguard their natural resources while also supporting sustainable development and economic opportunity. The mystical properties of Kandak's ecosystems require monitoring approaches that account for both physical and spiritual dimensions of environmental health, while also providing practical information for policymaking and resource management. The technological education and training programs necessary for managing complex Eternium-enhanced systems require developing pedagogical approaches that combine technical knowledge with mystical understanding. The establishment of educational institutions that can prepare students for working with hybrid magical technological systems creates new models for technical education that honor both scientific rigor and traditional wisdom. The film's examination of cultural exchange and international cooperation reveals how communities can share their knowledge and practices with global partners while maintaining their autonomy and cultural integrity. The development of exchange programs that facilitate learning and collaboration while respecting cultural sovereignty creates opportunities for mutual benefit and understanding that transcend traditional power relationships. The relationship between individual creativity and collective cultural production throughout Kandak's development demonstrates how personal artistic expression serves broader community function, trauma, processing, and social commentary. The establishment of cultural institutions that support both individual artists and collaborative cultural projects creates infrastructure for ongoing cultural vitality and innovation. The film's treatment of legal system development and justice administration explores how communities can create institutions that reflect their values while meeting international standards for human rights and due process. The integration of traditional justice practices with contemporary legal frameworks requires careful attention to both cultural authenticity and practical effectiveness, while ensuring accountability and fairness. The economic planning and resource allocation challenges in post-liberation Kandak require approaches that balance immediate needs with long-term development goals while maintaining democratic participation. The development of planning processes that combine technical expertise with community input creates frameworks for decision-making that are both effective and accountable to the populations they serve. The film's exploration of public health infrastructure and disease prevention systems demonstrates how communities can build healthcare capacity that addresses both immediate medical needs and broader determinants of health, including environmental quality, social support. The integration of traditional healing practices with contemporary public health approaches creates comprehensive systems for promoting community health and resilience. The relationship between technological innovation and cultural values throughout Kondak's development reveals how communities can embrace beneficial technologies while maintaining their identity and principles. The development of technology assessment processes that evaluate innovations according to both